we're putting a lot in to what we have in these defensive ends with Haason Reddick not being here. We're putting a lot into a lot of no productivity last year. Okay. And we heard some news the last couple days about Jalyx Hunt. His trainer had some things to say on Inside the Birds, which was really interesting. I kind of want to go over some quoted things from there and kind of give my opinion on the whole entire story. And I want to go over Haason Reddick as well, because he kind of goes into this whole situation and where we're at as a team on the edge, especially on that defensive line and where we're going, moving forward. So let's get into all the news. Let's get straight into it.
Because I've seen enough horror movies to know any weirdo wearing a mask is never friendly.
Yeah, what's going on, guys? I hope everyone's having a fantastic day today. So, a lot to talk about regarding the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, this one is interesting to me because I think as the big mystery player on this roster right now with a ton of upside, but so much mysterious nothing. Like I have, when you have a good feeling about a player, but you don't want to hype up too much about it, it's really Jalyx Hunt as your third round pick. You're putting a lot into your edge rushers, a lot into your off-ball guys that are from edge rushers to off-ball linebackers, because I feel like with Jalyx Hunt, now this Jalyx Hunt was a hand-picked pick by Vic Fangio. Okay, this is one of Vic Fangio's favorite players. We went over, Jalyx Hunt. He was a big time player on a visit for the Eagles. I mean, 6'4", 252, safety turned defensive end, moves like a DB. I mean, there's a lot of upside when it comes to his metrics and his athleticism, but how far is he going to go as a player for the Philadelphia Eagles? Now, getting rid of Haason Reddick, now you put a lot of focus, you're putting a lot into nothing right now because there's nothing promising because of last year and how the rotation was and Nolan Smith really not getting much playing time. And, you don't really have much. Brandon Graham is up there in age now. He's not going to be nothing much but a rotational player deep in the rotation. Josh Sweat's not going to be here after this year. So as for the future, you're really putting a lot into Nolan Smith. You're putting a lot into Jalyx Hunt. You're putting a lot into Bryce Huff at $17 million a year now. Okay. I think Bryce Huff is going to be a fantastic player. I've seen the tape a million times. Bryce Huff just, we need to see what he looks like on more snaps. I mean, that's really it. On 43% of the snaps, Bryce Huff, had 10 sacks, a 110 sack season. That's what we're going off of at $17 million a year. Haason Reddick wanted 20 to 25. Eagles wouldn't pay it. Whatever happened, we'll go into that later in this video. But Jalyx Hunt, Vic Fangio has a lot of praise. This could be one of the big gems going into training camp and not knowing what to expect. Which is interesting. So there was some news that came out on with his trainer, which is interesting. So I want to go over a few quotes what his trainer said on Inside the Birds. He said, Jalyx's personality is through the roof, man. Clark said, an exclusive with Inside the Birds. It's crazy. He's always in a good mood. That's him all the time. Every time he steps into the gym for an hour and a half, 2 hours, he's in there until the time he leaves. I feel like he's understanding what it is to be a pro and how to attack the day like a pro. Now it says, and not being so flat all the time. I'm big on not being flat all the time because I tell him at the same time, once you get flat, we're done. There's nothing we could do once we get flat. The repetitive drill is an essential function for edge rushers. As coordinator Vic Fangio's defense reinforced the importance of details, footwork, and navigating space. And if Clark ever wants to alter his approach or present Hunt with a different perspective, he has some optionality. It says, it helps when I have Shaq Griffin and the DBs with him, Clark said, because I always tell him, if I could get you to move like a DB with what you already have, then, man, the sky's the limit for you. So we've been working on a lot of stuff like that, which is definitely true. If you're always flat-footed, especially as a secondary type player, you're going to get beat immediately. So always be on your toes, always be instinctive on what you're doing, being in the secondary, which is great. And this is a guy that's 6'4", 252, safety to edge rusher, could play off-ball linebacker. I think this is what we wanted Haason Reddick to be when it comes to the off-ball coverage, but he just couldn't do it. Sack numbers are there, but you have to balance it out too, because you can't just have a player that just gets 7 sacks in 1 month and then the next month does absolutely nothing, because Reddick has done that where he's very streaky. So you want more of a balanced type player, and athletically off the charts. Yeah, he is athletically just that athletic off the charts. It's crazy what Jalyx Hunt has done this offseason. Now, every player is obviously working their tail off to get ready for training camp, but a lot of pressure as a third-round pick. We weren't really expecting. I mean, they doubled down on edge rusher this year because you're going to be losing Josh Sweat. You're going to be losing Brandon Graham to retirement after this year, his last hoorah of the season, of his career. So there's a lot riding on this, especially with Nolan Smith and Bryce Huff. There's a lot riding on this right now, and I'm telling you right now, like Jalyx Hunt, to me, I feel like there's something there, man. I feel like there's something they're gonna get. I feel like this, and this isn't necessarily a bad thing, because when a defensive coordinator handpicks his own guy, it's a very good thing. It's not a bad thing at all. It's probably the best case scenario. It wasn't all Howie Roseman that picked Jalyx Hunt. I mean, he probably liked him, but Vic Fangio has a lot of say on this roster. I think we all know how much control he actually has, on paper. Now it says, I just want the kid to go out there and show everybody the reason why Philly took him in the place that they did. He said, that's not just me having his back. That's me knowing what type of work he's put in, how he's been preparing himself and what's to come. You're going to get a ball player from top to bottom, a kid that speaks on. Just put me anywhere, wherever you need me, in-game, special teams, different positions on defense. I think Philly got a real gem of the draft. So that's really good from the trainer of Jalyx Hunt this offseason, or at least I don't know how. I mean, it's been a long offseason for him. It's a lot of pressure for him this season, but I mean, where's there no pressure for a player going into training camp when you're gonna be with the rest of your teammates, full pads, you're gonna have joint practices, you're gonna have preseason, you're gonna have to. The cuts are going to be insane. Obviously, Jalyx Hunt won't be a cut candidate unless he's like that bad and not showing anything. I don't want Jalyx Hunt to turn out to be some like Davion Taylor type player. A lot of potential, but just he doesn't, or they just don't play him, or they just don't do enough for him to really showcase himself. So I feel really good about him going forward. And, we'll see what happens in the time being. But Jalyx Hunt, though, I feel like there is something hidden that I think a lot of people aren't talking about him right now. And I feel like, I'm not going to say he's going to jump out. I'm really focusing more on him and his off-ball coverage. I'm not really putting too much into his edge rushing ability, which he has a really nice bend. Athletically, he's really good on the edge, but within another year, I think he'll get better at that. But I think the Eagles want him just as an athletic freak in coverage. That's where they want him, because that's what we need in this defense, especially these fast break tackles, fast break coming off, getting off your assignment to make these tackles. If it's a run or something to the outside or something like that. That's why in this defense you got to have the most athletically sound guys, especially from your linebackers, your secondary. Everybody's going to be on point. I think athletically they have the right guys, but a lot of youth, which is great. But at the same time, losing Reddick was definitely a loss in some cases, not fully. But they have more of a scheme fit player in Jalyx Hunt, which is great. So really like the words that were said. Can't wait for Jalyx Hunt. He's one of the most biggest stories going into training camp, no doubt. As well as Mekhi Becton, John Ross, and some of these other guys. I think there's some really good stories going to camp and a lot of promise and a whole lot of ceiling. So we're going to see what Jalyx Hunt's all about going into camp. Now, since we're talking about edge rushers, we're talking about defensive line, we're talking about Haason Reddick. Okay, Reddick still has not. I mean, I was on vacation, and I was like, this guy still hasn't signed anything yet. Okay, so take this with a grain of salt, obviously, but it says, wow, Jets pass rusher Haason Reddick is cosplaying in Japan. This guy is stupid. He was not mandatory minicamp after he lied to the team saying he would be there. Now, I don't know if that is even true at this point, if he even lied and said he was going to be there. I think that's a bunch of BS, and him cosplaying in Japan, it's not called cosplaying, it's called that's what they wear in Japan. These are Japanese garbs. Haason Reddick was in Tokyo, Japan. Whatever. Okay, great. Nothing against that at all. I don't know why people make a big deal. Cosplay, like seriously, maybe he likes Japan. Maybe he wants to live there. I don't know, but stop making a big deal about it. Now I think this is interesting because he hasn't got a deal yet. Now, Nick Bosa is making what, $32 million a year? But obviously he's a lot younger. He's a little bit younger. Reddick, I don't know what he wants. We went over this. We've been over this situation a million times, and I know people are going to say, well, Joe, you have to get over this. Why? I want to know why the Eagles gave him up for nothing. A 26 third-round conditional, I mean, is a joke. It's a complete joke. Reddick, usually, like, look, we signed Bryce Huff, okay, and we gave him a deal immediately. When you trade for a player, you give him a deal. It's already done. The deal should already be on the table. There's rumors that Haason Reddick is not going to be playing on his $14 million a year. Or, sorry, on his $14 million for the 2024 season. If Reddick plays on this 1 year left on his deal for $14 million, then obviously something went wrong entirely. And if he actually gets a contract before the season starts and it's like over $25 million, then yeah, I can guess the Eagles just didn't want to pay that. The Eagles didn't really have to do anything. They could have just sat there, but was Haason Reddick going to sit out all the offseason program? Obviously, he's doing it for the Jets. I don't know. You get traded to the Jets. You're all excited. You go into their complex, and you're shaking hands with all the players, and you're meeting some of the guys. I mean, and I'm not saying he doesn't deserve the money. It has nothing to do with it. But when you trade for a player like this, the Eagles give away almost nothing. Like, Reddick needs to have what? I forgot what the exact number was percentage-wise. It's between 60 to 70% he needs to play a certain amount of snaps. And he's got to have 10-plus sacks for that 26 third-round conditional to turn to his second-round pick for that year. Okay? But that's the reason why we didn't like the trade was, well, man, if you're going to trade the guy, at least get something for him. At least, I mean, thank God we had a really good draft this year, and we were missing a third-round pick. We were missing some picks, and we want to get some picks back, but it just didn't work that way. But this is probably the most interesting thing that I haven't seen. And then you start to wonder, like, why did Reddick jump from the Cardinals to the Panthers to the Eagles? Like, why is he jumping from team to team? Is there something that teams don't like? Is there more to it with his attitude? Did him and Howie Rowe? I don't know. I mean, the report came out that he was chasing sacks. I mean, could that have happened? I mean, I don't know. I mean, he's not good in coverage. He sucks. He sucks in coverage. He's horrible. I mean, that's just the truth. He's just here to go after the quarterback. That's what defensive ends get paid to do. Defensive ends don't get paid to stop the run. They don't get paid to be in coverage. They get paid to sack the quarterback. That's where their money comes from. That is where it's at. So it has nothing to do with him not deserving of anything. He definitely deserves more money. $14 million for just this year. Yeah, he definitely should get a pay bump. But the Eagles are only willing to go so far. But at the same time, how far did this really go? Like, did it get this bad? I don't know if it did. But if you're giving away, if you give Reddick away for nothing, and then he doesn't show up to OTAs, Jets OTAs, or minicamp, I mean, that's kind of like the pieces are falling into place little by little. Not complete yet. We don't know the full story, but you're seeing like a little pattern here. So that's all I got to say with this situation. I only talk about it because we traded him away and we're putting a lot of faith into a lot of nothing right now because we don't know much of anything. Nolan Smith, we don't know what he's going to look like this year. We don't know what Jalyx Hunt's going to look like. We don't know what Bryce Huff should be our best guy on the edge, obviously. Josh Sweat should have a bounce back year. Everybody had a down year defensive line wise. Everybody did. I don't like when people single out these players on the defensive line for the Eagles last year. Like, they didn't stunt. They couldn't get pressure. They as a unit, they were horrible, and they were not coached. They were coached horribly. Let's just all agree on that. So that's where I'm at with the whole Haason Reddick situation. And I guess we'll find out more. I don't know. I don't know where this is going. But it gets more interesting as the weeks go on. Let's see if he actually shows up to training camp. If he doesn't show up to training camp, then there's something really. Then I don't know what the Jets were even doing or even trying to. I don't know. I have no idea. No idea. But other than that, guys, that's pretty much it. We went over Jalyx Hunt. We really went over the edge rushers, off-ball coverage guys, and Jalyx Hunt should be a prime candidate to really make some noise in training camp, especially joint practices, preseason games. And obviously, we're talking about Haason Reddick, and we're really focusing on guys to really step up on that edge and really and obviously signing more guys that are more athletically could be a nice balance on the edge and could be an off-ball coverage as well. So it definitely makes a ton of sense in some cases. But guys, if you guys haven't checked out the Philly Shakedown podcast merch, definitely check it out. We have a lot of new stuff coming out really soon. We had some altercations on some of the other stuff that wasn't in here, which is the sleeveless t-shirts that I think that are going to be in here really soon. And some extra stuff as well. So by the end of the weekend, hopefully, and by the beginning of next week, this week, whenever you're watching this, we'll have more to explain to you guys. And link in the description for all the Philly Shakedown podcast merch. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys on the next one. Shakes well, flops, peace out, guys. Peace.